Watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, so far the Falcon and the Winter Soldier seems to be off to a great start. One of the biggest reasons for this is because of John Walker. Although he isn't anybody's favorite character and probably won't be anytime soon, he is fairly interesting. A lot of that is because his story is very different from his comic book counterpart, so what we're going to see from him in the future is going to be very interesting. So fellow watchers, let us now break down who John Walker was and now is. John Walker first appeared on the scene in 1986 as Super Patriot. While he wasn't an outright villain, he wasn't a friend of Captain America in any way. He was an enemy who mostly used smear campaigns to make Captain America look like he didn't care about America. Whereas John Walker's goal was to make it seem like his ideals were superior to that of Captain America or Steve Rogers. For a lot of John Walker's story, he is a hero, but at the same time is quite insufferable because of his over-patriotic stance and just simple arrogance. He was originally inspired by his brother Mike, who he thought was a hero, although his brother had severe PTSD and actually caused a lot of the problems in John's life. John joined the army to serve and be more like his brother Mike, but he never quite felt like the hero he thought his brother was. This is in part why he eventually met with the power broker to get his powers for himself and Lamar Hoskins. He met Lamar in the army, and that's where they become good friends and eventually would lead to them becoming partners. After they got their powers, they first joined the Universal Class Wrestling Federation as superpowered wrestlers. This federation was set up for those with superpowers to wrestle and entertain fans, but this still didn't quite fill the gap in John Walker's soul to be a hero. So he became Super Patriot, as said before, and claimed to be more patriotic than Cap and was Cap's enemy. But a lot of his exploits were for show so he could gain popularity, showing to some extent that maybe he didn't understand what being a hero meant. Lamar Hoskins and two other old army friends would often attack Super Patriot at rallies so that John could beat them up, proving his strength to those who would attend. While a lot of this was for show, he eventually did something that was actually heroic. Shortly after getting into a fight with Captain America in Central Park, the villain Warhead was threatening to blow up the Washington Monument with a nuclear device. Cap was unable to help, being held back by the Commission on Superhuman Activities that was being manipulated by Red Skull. Although a lot of it was for publicity, Super Patriot stepped in and defeated Warhead, killing him, but also saving many people. Due to these actions, as well as Steve knowing that Red Skull was behind the Commission on Superhuman Activities, and responding by giving up his title of Captain America, many in America would then be asking who the next Captain America should be. Due to John's exploits during Warhead, many thought he was the next logical choice. So, that is what happened. John took up the mantle of Captain America while Steve Rogers simply became the captain. During this time, Lamar Hoskins became his partner known as Battlestar, but his two former friends that would attack him with Lamar when trying to boost support for Super Patriot eventually became the villain's left-winger and right-winger. Knowing John from the past, they revealed his identity and got his parents killed by the Watchdogs. It is at this point when John Walker's true colors are shown, because after his parents were killed in the rescue attempt from the Watchdogs, he then slaughters the rest of the Watchdogs that are present. This really shows John's lack of control when it comes to his anger. His inability to control his anger comes into play many times, especially when working with other Avengers. As time went on, John Walker would face many of the threats Steve Rogers did, namely Red Skull. It is after the final battle with Red Skull that John eventually gives up the title of Captain America. Prior to this, he is manipulated by Red Skull to thinking that Steve Rogers is the enemy. Red Skull had been manipulating the Commission on Superhuman Activity and tried to make it seem that Steve was in league with Red Skull. Upon learning about these lies, John and Steve would eventually team up and take on Red Skull, finally defeating him and removing him from a position where he could manipulate government entities. It is after this that John gives up the title of Captain America, and he did so willingly because he didn't feel that he was the symbol Steve ever was, revealing that to some extent he was a hero, and that he did feel remorse and had some semblance of a conscience. He eventually takes on the title of US Agent after faking his death so he could hide his identity once again. After re-emerging as US Agent, he is assigned to the West Coast Avengers by the Commission to keep an eye on them and also Vision, especially after Vision's AI took over the world's nuclear codes and held the world hostage. And although at this time Vision had been disassembled and became White Vision, John was still kept there to keep an eye on this new version in case it tried to do anything the old Vision did. During a lot of this, we see just how arrogant he really was, constantly fighting with his fellow team members On the very first day, he fights with Hawkeye over who's in charge, forcing his way to the top slot in the team. He would continue to show up throughout the years, for example siding with Iron Man during Civil War, being for the Superhuman Registration Act, as well as fighting the Thunderbolts on a few occasions, leading to the loss of his arm and leg. Due to this, he retired as U.S. agent and became the warden of the Raft, the superhuman prison. Eventually, he did come in contact with a Venom symbiote that brought back his arm and his leg. Eventually, he would rejoin the army as U.S. agent, and ended up fighting Sam Wilson to get Captain America's shield back at Steve Rogers' request. This is from the story where Steve Rogers' history was changed so that he was a Hydra agent all along. And although he lost the fight with Sam, he did show up later, showing that he was a hero as he fought Hydra and Captain America when they took over the US government. John has a wild and interesting history. It is very conflicting and hard to decide whether he is a hero or an antagonist. And although the MCU's John Walker has a slightly different story and is going to have very different interactions, especially because some of the villains and people he faces off against, their stories are concluded in the MCU or might not be included at all. John is a hero inside of the MCU. It's hard to deny that anyone who has 3 medals of honor has not done something heroic. He is at peak physical condition without the super soldier serum, and he really seems to want to be Captain America, to live up to the role and the name. But at the same time, we see some anger issues, and also an overzealous love for the government. While he won't necessarily be a villain in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier or for anybody else in the MCU, he will be a pain in everyone's necks. As this season goes on, I think we're going to see some very similar things to the comics. We're going to see John Walker get his powers from the Power Broker, for himself and Lamar Hoskins. Also, I think he will eventually fight Sam for the title of Captain America and for the shield. While he may come out on top because he may have taken the super soldier serum at that time, eventually he will give up the shield, as I think that he will make mistakes, lose his cool, and feel that he is not worthy of the title. I also don't think that if he gives up the shield and the title, this will be the last we see of him, especially if we get projects like the Thunderbolts or the West Coast Avengers. John Walker really does have an interesting history in Marvel Comics, and who knows, they may rewrite him to be a straight up villain as time goes on. But one thing's for sure, he is not Steve Rogers and he is not our Captain America. So as the story unfolds, it'll be interesting to see his future interactions with Sam and Bucky, as well as possible future appearances in the MCU. What are your thoughts on John Walker in the MCU so far? And what stories do you want to see from his past show up in the MCU? Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know what you think in the comments below, and then like this video and subscribe to the Marvelous Wave to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.